So Trevor, I know last time we met, we discussed the need for life insurance. We arrived at $1 million in coverage as our number that we need. And when we walked through the five types, you really resonated with the variable universal life. So I just want to make sure that I explained it to the utmost clarity to you. Would you describe back to me, as if I'm a fifth grader, how the variable universal life works?
Yeah, so when you showed me the five types of life insurance, it was the one with the big bumps, where it went up a lot down and it was invested like my 401k.
Yeah. So you've got the general concepts spot on, but for the sake of just making sure you really understand how it functions, I'm gonna do a little drawing here, and at the end of the drawing, you're gonna understand exactly every aspect of how a VUL works.
Awesome.
So, when we last talked, we understand that you pay premiums, correct?
Yes.
So there's two components to a variable universal life. The one that you mentioned is the investment accounts that function like your 401k.
Yeah.
And we actually have access to over 80 plus different investment accounts, which will allow us to come up with an extremely well diversified portfolio. So that's things like the large cap, small cap, bonds, international funds, etc. Just making sure that we cover all our bases to get the most growth out of the market. So majority of your cash from your premium is going to go to filling up these various buckets in these investment accounts.
Yeah.
A small portion is actually going to go to the cost of insurance. And so if we think about it as an umbrella, the top portion is your protection amount. So a minimum amount of your premium has to go towards paying insurance. That way we can keep it in force. But as you pay more and more premiums, these buckets in the investment account are going to fill up, and they're going to be pulled down towards what we discussed last time, which is the cash value. So if we think of the cash value as a bucket, as the market does better and better, the level of cash value in this bucket goes up and up and up. And one of the unique features about the variable universal life is you have the ability to access this cash value. And something I think that resonated with you most is one of our biggest pros. As long as we structure this policy correctly, you'll have access to this cash value tax-free.
Okay.
So what questions do you have so far?
What do you mean by structure properly?
That's a great question. So back in the 70s, 60s, 80s, there was no rule on how much cash value you could plow into life insurance. So in about 1985, all the politicians caught on about this. And before they closed the loophole, they took out $10,000 whole life policies and put $100,000 up to $1 million in those policies. So AXA actually sets the minimum amount you have to put in to keep this policy in place. That's this portion of the premium that's going towards buying the life insurance. Now the IRS sets the maximum amount of cash you can put in towards the investment accounts, because there has to be a corridor between the amount of life insurance you have and the amount of cash value. Otherwise, it becomes a taxable event. So as long as we are making sure that our amount of life insurance coverage is comparable to our amount of cash value, you're going to be able to pull that tax-free.
Okay, that makes sense.
What questions do you have there?
No, I think you explained that perfectly.
Okay, great. So one big con with this is that there is a surrender schedule to this cash value. So typically we see that being 10 years. It's going to decrease as you get more and more into the life of the policy, but you will have access to some of the cash value at all times up until the point where you can access it all after the 10-year period. The other big con is you have to qualify health-wise.
Okay.
which we've already discussed is going to be a non-issue because you're an extremely healthy guy, very fit. So what questions do we have? What do we not understand?
No, I think that was perfect.
Great. So now that we understand how it works, illustrate it. Okay. Cool.
We're up. Whew. Healthy.
So